Welcome, everyone, to the Ready for the Draft podcast. I am your host, Gregg Schutze. This is episode 26 of the 2021 podcast series, taking a look at the draft-eligible prospects and getting you ready for the NFL Draft, set to begin April 29th. And this is the third installment of the From a Fan's Perspective segment, where I sit down with fans of NFL franchises and discuss free agency and the draft. This week, I sit down with Geoff Paez, who's a diehard and longtime Miami Dolphins fan. Now, I know there's been some lean years in Miami, but there's a lot of optimism now with Brian Flores at the helm, and Geoff and I take a look at that and break everything down. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the episode from a fan's perspective, Miami Dolphins style. So from a fan's perspective this week, I'm talking to Dolphins superfan Geoff Paez. Thanks for joining, Geoff. Wanted to, first things first, you're an LA guy. You're LA Lakers, Dodger fan, UCLA Bruins. How'd you get in with the Miami Dolphins?
Well, my dad took me to my first ever football game. My dad took me to. It was 1983. It was the rookie year. It was during Dan Marino's first year. They played the Raiders, Coliseum, and I just fell in love with the balls he was throwing. And ever since then, I was like, I want to play like him. And ever since then, since that's the first time, and watched him ever since. And when he retired, man, I swear to you, I cried. I cried when he retired, man. I was so disappointed, man. And I blame Jimmy Johnson for that.
Why?
Because it was his fault he retired. He killed him, man. He just too much for him, man. I was so mad. I think Marino had about maybe 2-3 good years left in him. And I think that whole last season with him, it was just bad for him. So I was pissed. I still don't like Jimmy Johnson because of that, man. So mad.
you had get out to some games from time to time too, right?
I go every year. Yeah, we and my buddies, two of my buddies and my cousin, we're all hardcore Dolphin fans, and we go every year to a game. We go to we either pick a home game or an away game. Like this year we're going to Tennessee. There's a Tennessee Dolphin game, so we're going to go to Tennessee. And then so we'll alternate. So the following year we go do a home game. So yeah, we go every year. And if it wasn't for COVID, man, we're going to have the trifecta this year because they played San Francisco. We're going to go there. They're going to play the Raiders. They're going to go there. And then who are they going to? Oh, Arizona. So it's like a triangle. We're like, sweet. But, stuff happened. So we decided to just plan that Tennessee trip.
Nice. Right on. So Brian Flores, I mean, obviously we've kind of had the carousel of coaches there in Miami of late. You bring in Brian Flores, kind of a Bill Belichick disciple, if you will. First impressions of Brian Flores and the direction now that he has your Dolphins heading.
At first, I was like, "Who is this guy?" And that's the mindset that we had, right? I mean, I think we had just as much coaches as we had quarterbacks. It was like since Jimmy Johnson and Wannstedt left, so I didn't know anything about him. From what my perspective with him was like every single disciple from Belichick, there really haven't been that many that have been successful. So we're like, oh, we got another one, Romeo Crennel type, coach. Like, okay, another 4 years down the drain.
At Patricia.
Yeah. And then what did they go? Like 0-7, I think his first 1-7 or 1-6. And we're like, literally it was like the shit, man. It's like, oh, here we go again. And then he just turned it around. And the coach, the players I started seeing a lot of these players like preach him, like, respected him, and he respected each other, and they believed in him. And when they started doing that in the middle of last year, that's when they went on that, what was it, like 5-2 run or something like that, the end of the season. And then like this year, it's like, I like that guy, man. So I think it's more of the players liking him and respecting him, and that respect they have with each other. A player's gonna play for a coach that they like and they respect, and that's what they have. And it showed this year big time.
So last year's draft, you had 3 first-round picks. We got to talk about Tua. I know, just one pick away from Justin Herbert, has probably one of the best rookie seasons ever. But you still have Tua. There was talk about, hey, is Tua gonna, is there trade talks? Is he the guy? Can he take us to the playoffs? As a fan, Where are you at with Tua?
Well, last year's draft, I didn't want Tua. I wanted Herbert, just for the fact that what's that one NFL quarterback take the test, the IQ test, the quarterback IQ test?
Wonderlic, or
yeah, I think it's one of those. Well, anyway, he had the highest out of all the quarterbacks coming out. Like, I think I think he ranked number 2. I might be wrong. 1 or 2 or number 3 of the highest ever had. The number 1 guy that rated high on the IQ was Fitzpatrick. So he followed by Fitzpatrick. So because as a quarterback, you want somebody that's smart, that's going to catch things quickly. Not saying that Tua isn't, but Herbert was like a man. He's like 6'4", he can run, and he had this IQ. I wanted him. So, a couple of my buddies that we were fans with, they were all for Tua. I was the only one that was going for Herbert. So you can imagine that during that draft day, and when they announced Tua, man, they rubbed it in my face, and I was like, that's going to be the wrong mistake. And sure enough, look at Herbert, he went off. So I'm not a believer in Tua yet, because for me, I think to me, it's like, I think he has a little bit problems with reading some of these defenses, and in the NFL, they'll adjust to that. They'll just see what he can't see, and it proved when he played against the Broncos, they adjusted the defense and he couldn't read it. To me, I've always been like, Dua did pretty good in college, but yeah, he was playing at Bama with a bunch of D1 guys. You can put anybody back there and they'll make him look like a superstar. Herbert didn't have anybody. He's at Oregon, and the stuff that he did there. So I was never a believer with Tua. The main thing was he was always injury prone. He's injury prone. That hip is an issue. He just takes one big shot from these 400-pound nose tackle to hit him. He's one good shot away from getting retired early. So I would have liked
all those ankle injuries too.
Yeah, all those stuff. And I would have loved to go with Herbert, younger, healthy, smarter as far as, the IQ in football, rather than the hype of Tua, the hype. And again, I didn't think he did a lot last year. I don't know yet. Hopefully this year. To him this year, it's more of a do or die. Either you're a bust or not. So, I hope he's not a bust. I hope I'm wrong. But, we'll see.
So last year's draft, 3 of the next 6 picks were used on offensive linemen. So obviously one of the things taking care of Tua was of utmost importance for your guys. You bring in Austin Jackson out of SC. He was kind of that 5th tackle. You knew Miami was going to need a tackle at some point. Who is it that they were going to take? They take Austin Jackson. Robert Hunt, was playing kind of right tackle. I think you got to get him kicked inside to guard this year, where his natural position when he, at Louisiana. And then Solomon Kindley, another big physical guy there on the interior in the 4th round. Thoughts on your line and the prospects for that line. I think Austin Jackson kind of an up and down season. It looks like Robert Hunt's going to be a stud there on the inside. How are you feeling about your line now? Obviously we know that too with Isaiah Wilson, things didn't work out there. They traded for him. He just got released. So you're still on the market for a right tackle. I saw Matt Skura, the center from Baltimore. You guys signed him in free agency, so you have a center. You're going to need a right tackle at some point in the draft, but talk to me about the rest of that line.
Well, I think Hunt's going to be good because I think that they are moving him back into guard, back to his position. I think one of the weaknesses that we had, well, there's 2. Well, really, one position was a center. We didn't have no center last year. Now they signed, and then we're cemented on that area. I think last year, it's a young line. We didn't have. If you can tell by our rushing game. I think we had the worst rushing average. I think we were ranked last. And I kind of figured that would be because you have a bunch of young guys. It's not going to take them 1 year when your whole line's brand new. So I think going into this year, they got that experience in there. Again, you got Hunt and moves back into his guard position. We signed a center. I think we're going to be really solid this year. And I think our running game is going to pick up because that's one of the things that we struggled with last year. Again, the line was young. They need some experience. And I think this year they're protecting Tua. So I think our run game should be pretty solid. I think our offensive line is going to be solid this year because we've always had a lineman that always would get hurt. We would move guards to right tackle, playing off positions. We were getting practice squad players. And I think they really got that down this year. And it's going to be good, man. I like the running game this year. So offensive lineman is going to be pretty solid.
So, and then looking kind of transitioning to this offseason so far, pretty active. bringing in a lot of role players, it seems like for you guys, not really a ton of guys that would say they're going to be instant impact, players for the most part. A lot of guys that are more your role players, the Adam Butlers, the Robert Fosters, Malcolm Brown at running back. But one guy, two guys in particular, you've got, Justin Coleman, the slot corner, comes in. You compare him with the X-Man out there and Byron Jones. So I like that pickup. I'm not sure where Noah Igbenogany fits in all of that. What do you think?
I think Coleman's going to be there. I think he's going to be more like the mentor for Noah, because Noah's young. What is he, like 21? I mean, 20 last year. He has a lot of upside, Noah does, with the speed. I think he's going to be pretty good. I give him about 2 more years. It's kind of where Coleman fits in to be the mentor person. So I think that's one of the reasons why they brought Coleman in. But eventually Noah's going to take over that position.
Okay.
But we have a solid defense. I mean, those corners going to be sick. I know it's going to fit in there again, maybe in the nickel. At some of those positions he'll fit in there. But he'll improve this year. But Coleman, again, it's going to be the guy at that position. But I think in the end, he's the mentor. He's kind of the Fitzpatrick of Tua, of the corners for him. So that's where I see that going on.
Makes sense. And then the receiver position. And obviously trying to find some speed at the receiver position. DeVonta Parker and Preston Williams, a couple of bigger guys. Parker more of a possession guy. Preston Williams, a big physical dude. Coming out of Colorado State. I mean, you guys got an undrafted free agent gem in Preston Williams. I mean, that was nice. But bringing in Will Fuller now you've got that vertical threat. And working him into that offense. I'm looking at that number 3 overall pick. Do you think that signing of Will Fuller kind of tips the hand in terms of what you guys may be doing at number 3?
Well, I think for number 3, they're going to go. They're going to go with Chase. They're going to pick up a receiver, and I think they're going to end up picking Chase from LSU. I think that's their main guy. I like Fuller, but my only thing with Fuller is that he's always hurt. I don't remember the last time he's played a full season or 8 games at least. Then you got DeVonta Parker, who's only had 1 good year where he hasn't been injury prone. Every other year besides that, he's been hurt. He's always hurt, his hamstrings and stuff like that. So now you got Parker and Fuller who are injury prone. They're gonna have to signature that receiver spot. So I think in the draft they're gonna go with Chase. I wish, just like last year when I said Herbert, I hope they go with Chase in this, because they need that star receiver, because when our main receiver, the most receiver who had the most yards is a tight end, it's not good, especially with a rookie quarterback, stuff like that.
Well, that was going to be my next question. I was going to ask if you were Team DeVonta or Team Jamar at that receiver position, because I think those are the 2 guys that we know are clear cut, top receivers. And obviously, with DeVonta Smith and the year that he had, Heisman Trophy winner, but people forget that just a year prior, Jamar Chase was putting up the exact same numbers, the 20 touchdowns that DeVonta Smith, he tied Jamar Chase's record in the SEC with those 20 touchdowns. And, I think that the styles are a little bit different too. I think you look at DeVonta Smith, he's that Marvin Harrison type, kind of that smooth receiver, quick in and out of his breaks, reliable hands, plays bigger than his size. And then you got Jamar Chase, who is just a bully. He's going to sit there. He's going to beat you up. He's going to beat those corners up, and he's so difficult to bring down in the open field. He's going to go up and attack the football in the air. I'm with you. I think Chase, the thing is you bring in a guy like Fuller and DeVonta Smith, you got to, it's like diversifying your portfolio. You got to have a different guys and, for that receiving core and have some of that versatility. And so Fuller can be that guy that can stretch some of the defense. Jamar Chase can work some of those underneath routes. And also, I think those 2 can kind of work in tandem there on the outside. There is a school of thought that Miami could potentially go after Penei Sewell to shore up that right tackle position, because the draft class is so deep. You could still at 18 get a guy like Rashad Bateman, a guy who can get vertical, physical receiver, good route runner, ran a sub 4.40 at his combine. But I think you could still get a tackle on day 2, still be fine, and get your guy, get Jamar Chase, you get your alpha there at number 3. Does that make is that kind of where you're at too?
Yeah, that's what I think. I think they're going with the Chase. I think like I said last year that was their main issue. They didn't have a solid receiver, so I think they're gonna go with Chase. I think the only other option they'll probably do is trade down maybe to like I want to say like the 7th spot, and maybe like you said, there's a bunch of receivers. Maybe pick up Smith at that point or Waddle at that point. Whatever, one of the top 3 receivers there, and pick up some picks. But yeah, that's where I see they're at. I think the tackle position, it will be in the 2nd round because how many do they have in the 2nd round? Don't they have like 2 picks or something?
Yeah, you guys. What's crazy? Thank you, Houston, for taking Laramie Tunsil off your hands, getting that number 3 overall pick. You also get number 36 in the 2nd round. So in the first 80 something picks, you've got 5 picks. I mean, you can come away like you did in last year's draft with a lot of really solid players to address some of those key need areas. That 18 pick is what's going to be interesting. And I wanted to get your thoughts here because initially I thought maybe you go JOK, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I thought maybe that would be a nice pick to play with Jerome Baker. You trade Shaq Lawson for Benardrick McKinney. So you get a Pro Bowl inside linebacker. You sign Duke Riley, who's kind of an inside linebacker as well. My thought with it is you trade away Shaq Lawson, and so your only real edge rusher is Andrew Van Ginkel. I think the only guy that had multiple sacks last season. You need a pass rusher. And so I'm looking at 18. Yes, you could potentially go Najee Harris as well and get a running back because you need that ground game. Myles Gaskin, Salvon Ahmed, and Malcolm Brown. They're not the answer. So you could go Najee Harris, but what if Gregory Rousseau's there? A guy that they've probably seen there at Miami. He's 6'7", 265. Yes, he was only a redshirt freshman, but 15 and a half sacks. You can't argue with the production. He was a converted receiver, so he's only going to continue to get better. He's extremely raw. He sat out 2020, but this is a guy who can bend off the edge like no other, has a ton of length. What would you do with that 18th pick? Do you go running back? Do you go with an edge rusher?
You know what? How I would play this whole draft out is I would probably trade my 3rd pick for I think one of the 6th or 7th picks. So trade down, get a couple of picks, and then I would go with one of my other top receivers. Like I said, Waddle, Smith, whoever's left. Who I really like at 18 pick, which I know he's not going to be there, is the linebacker for Penn State. What's his name? Mika. I forgot his last name.
Parsons?
Yes, Parsons. That's who I like. We need that. We need that linebacker, that kind of mentality, that kind of toughness, young. If we fill that position in, our defense for the next if you thought Baltimore defense was good when Ray Lewis was there, this defense is going to be the same thing. But like I said, if we that's what I would prefer. I would do. But again, they might be going with the hype. I think their hype is going to be more of now they're going to pick, Smith because they want to connect them with Tua. I wouldn't be surprised if they do that at the 3rd pick. 18 pick, like I said. I really wish they get that linebacker, but I think they're going to fill it in with the tackle position because they're going to need that tackle position. They need to fill that gap, especially with they want to start doing this run game and protect Tua more and stuff like that. So then you got your best, your alpha receiver, and then your line is solid, and you filled every gap. So,
and I think at 18, the kid out of Oklahoma State, Tevin Jenkins, I got to watch him play quite a bit, and this is a guy. He's versatile. He can play both right and left tackle. Physical guy at the point of attack. A guy that generates a ton of movement in the ground game, and he's light on his feet. As a pass protector, hasn't given up a sack in the last 2 seasons. Pretty easy mover there as well. If you haven't gotten a chance to see it yet, turn on that Oklahoma State Texas game. There's a play where he takes Joseph Osai and drives him down the field, angles all the way to the sideline, and plants him on the Texas bench.
What's his name?
Tevin Jenkins. Teven Jenkins. And he's a guy. I think could end up being a top 20 pick when it's all said and done. So I like him there. If Miami decides to go defense at 18, then I think your 36 overall pick can end up being Jalen Mayfield out of Michigan. Another guy, he was really nice as a run blocker. He's gotten better as a pass protector in 2020. Showed some a lot lighter on his feet, and the hands finally match the feet. And he's not bending at the waist and lunging and leaning and trying to reach for guys. He's actually moving and staying in front of guys now. So I could see that as a move potentially for you guys in round 2 if you go defense with that 18 overall pick.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of the plan. I mean, I keep reading that they're going receiver, running back, receiver, running back, receiver, running back. That's how they're going to probably pick Harris, 18th pick. But I think they need that tackle. But I think they might do like second round tackle. But I think that's the one position, but I think they're going to really want to address is the running back position, the receiver position, because those are two things that we just had issues with last year. And again, they're going with the hype. And that's the kind of trade, that's kind of the draft pick they did last year.
Well, that when you look at Najee Harris, the reason why there's so much hype around him going to Miami is that's who Brian Flores and company got to coach at the Senior Bowl. So they've gotten that one-on-one attention there with Najee Harris. And I mean, you get a dude who is physical between the tackles, a guy that can bounce it to the outside, freaking hurdled Nick McLeod, a 6'1" corner, and he's jumping over the guy, has nice hands, and he can protect Tua in the passing game as a pass protector too. So I can definitely see the reason why you go Harris. So that does make a ton of sense. And again, I right now I have them taking defense, just addressing the pass rush, only because they don't have this draft isn't huge on those premier pass rushers this year. And I think you guys also need a pass rusher at some point. So whether it's in round 1 or round 2, I think you do need to get a pass rusher. So I'm been back and forth between a running back and a pass rusher, because I'm thinking if round 2, a running back, there's also Travis Etienne that's going to be out there. And so he's a guy to me that he's more of that home run hitter, going to get a guy that's going to want to get north and south. Feet aren't all that great, but when you're that fast, you don't need to be. He's going to run through a lot of contact too. Ran a 4.40, at I think 215 pounds, bulked up like about, I think he put on about 10 to 15 pounds. His play weight is about 205, so he's probably running sub 4.4. Over 5,000 yards on the ground. And then I think he's had over 100 receptions for Clemson as well. So if you decide not to take Najee Harris there at 18, I think that's another option potentially on day 2 for you.
Yeah, they have options.
I mean, that's a beautiful thing. I mean, Miami before, you had to sit there, you had to make sure that you got this guy, you had to make sure that I'm targeting here. You guys actually have the luxury of having options. And, it's got to feel pretty nice from that standpoint that you guys are only just a couple of players away from really making some noise there in the AFC East.
Yeah, I hope so, man. It's do or die. It's playoffs or nothing.
So I'm looking, and I've done my mock draft through the first 4 rounds. And so, I'm looking at the interior of that defensive line as well, making sure that you shore things up there. You do have Raekwon Davis, who's a pretty versatile. I think he can play both the 5 technique and over the nose. There's a kid out of LSU, Tyler Shelvin, who's freaking huge. He's 346 pounds. He's a mammoth dude. I think 3rd, 4th round, you could potentially get a guy like that to really solidify the interior of that defensive line. And then looking at round number 4, you're sitting at 124 overall. And I like, Brandon Jones, the rookie from last year. I think he's promising. Right now at safety, you've got Eric Rowe, Bobby McCain, I think are your starters right now, if I'm not mistaken. And then you've got Brandon Jones. But I think I think Eric Rowe and Bobby McCain probably aren't your future. Maybe go get another safety. You've got Brandon Jones, maybe a guy like Richard LeCount out of Georgia, a guy that can really be that deep safety, a guy over the top, very intelligent, can come down and play in the box when you need to, have him come downhill. Those are a couple of areas that I can see, in the third and fourth round. Am I off there with where they could be going, or do you think that might be a couple of areas defensively to shore up?
I think they're going to solid that safety spot, because I think you're right. I think Rowe and who's the other guy? McCain. Yeah, McCain did all right this year for us, but I think we really need that big safety down there. I think, especially you got to remember, I mean, they want to get a defender that's who they playing. They play, just up Buffalo Bills and what's his name, the quarterback from Buffalo Bills,
Josh Allen.
Keep forgetting his damn name. So they need somebody that's going to be able to keep them, because that's the next 5-10 years, right? So I think that's what they're playing for. They don't have Tom Brady to worry about. Now it's more, the Buffalo Bills. So I think the safety is going to help out. So whenever, he tries to run off when they play the Buffalo Bills, you got that safety to cover him.
So saying, more of a bigger safety, here's a guy, I know you're a UCLA fan, but, a guy, with Hufanga, you want to talk about a heat-seeking missile, a guy that's going to play in the box. He's going to come downhill. A guy who I thought his first couple of seasons, he reckless abandon, no regard for his body. He injured both of his shoulders in one season. This year looked a lot more disciplined, and suddenly he was dropping into coverage, reading defense or reading the offense, reading the play in front of him. 4 interceptions this past year, also able to rush the passer coming off the edge. He's a guy that could potentially be in play there in the 3rd or 4th round, and big physical guy that you could pair up with Brandon Jones on the back end. Potential future there as well. I don't know how you feel though about having a couple of Trojans drafted the last 2 years with Austin Jackson and Talanoa.
No, I mean, well, I love Bruins, but I never liked anybody coming out and play for the Dolphins for the Bruins. So
didn't Gaston Green play there for a little while in Miami?
Yeah. So, I mean, not that guy. No.
So I guess as a Dolphin fan, watching what the Patriots are doing, I think Tom Brady kind of woke up the sleeping giant that is Bill Belichick. Belichick, not I think he's ticked off that Tom's sitting there, and so you watch him in the offseason. He's making all these moves. He's bringing in a couple of receivers, a couple of tight ends, bringing in a bunch of guys on defense. I'm wondering if that's because he's deciding to try to package some of those picks together to trade up and get a quarterback like Trey Lance. When you're watching Belichick make all these moves, what do you think that motive is? Because obviously you guys are coming, you guys are on the upswing. Buffalo's on the upswing. And really the Patriots, especially after last season, they're kind of falling off a little bit. So as a Miami fan, are you paying attention to that? Or are you, wondering what the heck is going on with Bill these days?
No, as long as they have Cam Newton back there, I don't care. They can sign up their 35, 38-year-olds. Doesn't matter. It just showed now the Patriots, like, who really was running that team. It wasn't Belichick because he didn't do nothing. Look at Tom Brady. So not worried about them at this point. Just like the Jets. Who cares? It's just Buffalo and see what they're doing. I think Buffalo just picked up a receiver. Emmanuel Sanders. They got Emmanuel Sanders. Yeah. They're loading up. They're giving them more options. So I think Buffalo is the next big thing in our division. And that's kind of where I think the Dolphins are going to draft to compete against Buffalo Bills. And I think that they're not too worried with the Patriots. I think the Patriots might be like 2 years off. I think Belichick might be setting something up to where, like, in 2 years they have all these draft picks and, he starts building this team up. So that's why he's signing these role players. He's some of these players that used to play for him before and stuff like that. You got Cam Newton who signed him for like a 1 year. I mean, stuff like that. So you can just tell that they're just trying to build their draft picks at this point because they don't have anybody. I mean, they gave up all those draft picks for those Super Bowl dynasties. I mean, even he said it. So no, I'm not worried about Patriots. At all.
I have this feeling that if Trey Lance is sitting out there and there's a chance for them to trade up into the top 10. It's been a weird year, obviously, with COVID and everything else. And then Bill Belichick spending more money in free agency than he ever has, uncharacteristic of him. I could see him doing something else uncharacteristic, trading up to get his quarterback of the future and landing a guy like Trey Lance. I don't see it being Justin Fields but I think you could definitely see them potentially going after Trey Lance this year. If not, then like you said, in the next year or two, compiling some picks together and trading up to get his quarterback of the future. Because you're right, Cam Newton, unless something changes drastically with them, he just it wasn't a good fit. They just weren't able to really do much. But I think they saw the handwriting on the wall. A lot of the quarterbacks already signed, done with. They didn't really want to try to make a deal for Sam Darnold or anyone like that. So might as well just run it back for one more year, stopgap quarterback before they move on.
But they could. Another thing I've read also that there's a little word going out there that he might go and trade for Garoppolo back. That's another thing.
See, and what's funny too, I actually had the 49ers at one point drafting Trey Lance, and going after a quarterback, thinking that maybe Garoppolo would be on his way out. And so I could also see that happening as well. Right now, your Micah Parsons, your linebacker, I think they're going to have to get above, San Francisco for sure at 12. If the Lions don't go with a receiver, then at 7, then I think Parsons is probably going to be their guy. I think they need some linebacker help, and they need some pass rush help as well. But I think if he doesn't go 7, then I think what you have, he could go to Denver. That'd be interesting. You get Micah Parsons playing with Miller and Chubb. But I think they need a cornerback help there with Denver, so I don't think that's going to happen. So you may end up having to get above San Francisco, because San Fran, they need another linebacker. Because they've got Fred Warner and Greenlaw, but they need another linebacker, and they need a guy that can rush the passer too, to help out Joey Bosa. I'm sorry, not Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa, and D Ford on the outside. So that to me is where I think you may end up having to go, and I just don't know if that's going to be. It might be too much for Flores, unless he, like you said, he trades down and may be able to solidify another pick and be able to package a deal to then move up. That could make some sense too.
I think what's really going to be a domino effect is whether they signed Galladay, the Lions guy, the free agent.
Yeah,
I think if the Dolphins sign him, they might trade away from that 3rd pick. They might trade down. If they don't sign him as a free agent, then again, they're gonna go receiver first. But I think that's the key. I think they're waiting to see how that happens, and they'll go with direction A or direction B, depending on if they sign him or not.
One of the X factors and the guys that I think is going to be interesting to see where he ends up is Kyle Pitts, the tight end out of Florida, because he's 6'6". 250, and he reminds you so much of a guy like Travis Kelce, just from the standpoint of you can line him up wherever you want. And I mean, Travis Kelce, make no mistake, throughout the playoffs, the Super Bowl, and really the entire season, that was Patrick Mahomes' guy. And that was, if he needed a first down, that's who he was going to. If he needed a big play, that's who he's going to. You can talk about Tyreek Hill all you want. It was Travis Kelce, and you're looking for that next guy. And there hasn't been a guy in history to not only win the Mackey Award for the top tight end, but then also be a finalist for the Biletnikoff Award for the top receiver. He's that good on the outside. And I'm looking at, the Falcons potentially at 4 if they didn't want to take a quarterback. Eagles at 6. They're getting rid of Zach Ertz. I'm like, if TJ Hawkinson could be the number 9 overall pick, I'm like, it's not going to be unrealistic to look at Kyle Pitts wherever he may go. And I know that you guys have Gesicki and you have Shaheen and such, but it's one of those things too, to where if you guys sign Kenny Golladay, any chance if they do trade down to like that 6th, 7th pick, overall or what have you, could you see Miami potentially taking a guy like Kyle Pitts to just add another dynamic to that offense?
Probably. You know what? I didn't even know about him until my kid told me about him. He told me to look him up. Because my kid follows a lot of this college, a lot more than I do in college. And I was looking at his stuff, and then I read one of the things where it said that he hasn't even dropped a pass at all in college, like at all. So Yeah, I mean, I like Gesicki. I think he's good, but I'm just into this. I just don't like this whole injury prone stuff. You know what I mean? If they pick him up, and from what I've seen on film, from reading his stuff, after my son told me about him, I wouldn't mind that. And you talk about it because again, you trade down your draft picks and you get more draft picks. The options are endless for them. So I like him.
Imagine that you get Galladay. Imagine the scenario.
Yeah,
you sign Galladay, then you trade down, you get Kyle Pitts, and then you get Najee Harris, the running back, at 18, and then you shore up your offensive line there in round number 2, get a pass rusher in round 2. You've essentially addressed all of your needs right there, and then after that, it's just kind of playing with house money. Where best player available after that. I mean, that honestly, if you could do that in the draft, obviously after signing, a guy like Galladay to kind of shore up the receiver position, you become instant contenders there in the AFC East because where are your holes?
Yeah. There's no weakness,
and you just have to just build for depth at that point.
And last year they like you said, they built depth last year in defense. They went defense heavy last year. So this is why I think this year they're going to do a lot of offensive heavy. And that's what I keep saying is that if that free agency Galladay, depending what happens with him, that's going to be the domino effect of what they do in the draft. Again, if they sign him, they're going to trade down out of that 3rd pick. And if they pick him and Harris in the 18th pick, it's dynamic. And again, there's always that tackle in the 2nd round. But if they don't sign him as a free agent, that's when they're going to go back to the chase and the original, like what you normally would see them do, but again, my key thing is going to be what they do in the free agency. Are they going to sign Galladay or not? Because I don't think Fuller's the answer. Because again, he has a deep down threat, but he's always injury prone. I think they haven't filled that receiver role, and it's going to depend on that free agency.
Was Fuller? I don't have it in front of me. Was he just a 1-year deal?
Yeah.
So that's the other thing too, is that he could potentially be just a 1-year rental. And, if you've got, you got Parker, you got Williams, you got a 1-year rental in Fuller. If you don't get another wideout signed to a long-term deal, then you're back in the same situation that you were this offseason.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think you have to, if you don't get Galladay, then you have to get that key receiver. And I'm with you. You could potentially go with somebody else there at 3. But I think you have to go chase, get that receiver, get the guy that and then you're right. If Najee Harris is there at 18, you could go tackle. There are going to be tackles available. It might be a stretch. But, Austin Jackson was a stretch last year, and it looks like he may be panning out for you guys there at left tackle. So they could go tackle and then take Travis Etienne in the 2nd round. I think, again, options there for you because that 36th overall pick, again, thank you, Houston. They give you guys the 3rd overall pick. They give you the 36th overall pick. You guys are, drafting early in those first 2 rounds. So I think it'll be interesting. You guys have a lot to play with there. And so I'm sure that you and I will be chatting come draft day, seeing what you guys are going to be doing overall. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun, man. I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited because for once, we're looking promising. We're not looking for that. Well, I mean, we still are. I mean, I was going to say we're not looking for that quarterback, but Tua has to prove a lot this year. But if we fill him up with all the positions that he needs, all the tools and weapons, there's no excuses for Tua going on after this year. So I think that's what they're doing. They're giving him all the options. Okay, here's the offense we're going to do. We're going to go offense heavy this year, and just run the game. See how you do this year. Because again, it goes back down to Tua. It's going to come down to Tua how he does this year. What I see happening, if he doesn't plan out this year, I see him getting traded. I see them going after Watson next year. They'll trade for Deshaun Watson, one way or the other. Package some draft picks next year with Tua, send them to Houston for Watson. I think that's what it is.
So I got one last question for you. Sam Darnold.
No,
not Miami, not in Miami. What happens with Sam Darnold? Because the Jets sitting there at 2, they've got, they could potentially take Zach Wilson, trade Sam Darnold, draft Zach Wilson as their future quarterback. But they could also, if Sam Darnold's their guy, they could stay at 2, potentially draft a receiver They could trade down and potentially go after a guy like Kyle Pitts as well. They've got 2 picks in round number 1. What do you think happens with Sam Darnold? Do you think – because – look, Mike LaFleur is their new offensive coordinator in New York, so he's running more of a West Coast style offense. Makes more sense for Sam Darnold. I think he can have success in a West Coast offense. You could build and give him weapons, actually give him a fair shot because, let's face it, he had 0 weapons around him. They already have Corey Davis. You could bring in a guy like either Chase or DeVonta Smith, or trade down and get Kyle Pitts. You started adding those weapons there to the table around Sam, or do you think Sam's done in New York? Do you think you trade him, you bring in Zach Wilson, and then just kind of roll with it from there?
Well, I hope they don't trade or they don't draft. They don't draft Zach Wilson. You know how I feel about Zach Wilson. He's going to be really good. I think they stay there with Sam Darnold. Again, their head. I know their head. I mean, his former head coach was Dolphins head coach, which is the worst head coach ever. When he got signed with the Jets, I had a buddy of mine who was a Jets fan who's from New York. I was just making fun. I was like, I don't have to worry about you guys anymore, man. That guy's terrible. So I don't think it was fair for Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's a good quarterback, man. I mean, I saw him play at San Clemente in high school. He's good, man. At SC, he was good. I mean, he had his moments here with his, turnovers and stuff like that. But I think they might keep him there and give him a shot. And they don't trade away and they don't draft the quarterback. I mean, I hope not. I don't want them to draft Zach Wilson.
They're playing their cards really close to the vest. It's kind of hard to really tell what they're going to do. And I think if that happens, you could have a chance with, if you guys don't take Kenny Golladay in free agency, you could potentially see receivers goes number 2, number 3, and then the Falcons sitting there at 4. That's might be where Zach Wilson goes because they've got an offensive-minded head coach, a new head coach in there, and I think that might. That's really the key. That's where the draft starts because we know that Trevor Lawrence is going to be the number 1 overall pick. That's kind of a done deal. And the Jets, that's really where what's going to happen there is really going to dictate everything after that because Miami, like you're saying, you guys could potentially get some trade partners if the Jets decide not to go with Zach Wilson. They keep Sam Darnold. Yeah, you could have some guys knocking on your door as well, trying to get up there to that number 3 overall pick. So you guys can get all kinds of things offered to you. So I think you guys are sitting in a really nice position. Even if Zach Wilson does come off the board, if you guys get the right package offered to you for a guy that wants to trade up for, say, either Trey Lance or Justin Fields, that could end up working out in your guys' favor as well.
Who's the one that after? Who's the next team that's after? Is it the Atlanta? Is it number 4?
Atlanta's number 4, yeah.
Let's see who we got. Because I was watching that too. Is like, I know Atlanta would probably want to trade down because they'd be scared that somebody would jump over them if Zach Wilson is at 3. Who's at 6? Let me see.
6 is the Eagles.
The Eagles. I mean, you have the Eagles. There's rumors going around that Hurts is still not their guy. They're still looking for a quarterback. So again, I mean. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it depends what happens with the Jets. It will play what the Dolphins do with the number 3 pick. But again, it goes back to the whole Golladay thing. If they sign Golladay, that 3rd pick for them becomes a gold mine. Especially if Jets don't pick up Zach Wilson. It's like they're gonna have they're gonna have so many people coming at them for draft picks to draft down, and that's where I think it's gonna end up happening. So it all plays down back to what I said before: is Golladay. And now the Jets then we keep Sam Darnold. Ooh, that 3rd pick, now taking buyers.
Hot commodity. Well, and with that too, if you guys are able to trade down in the draft, not too far into the top 10, but you might have a chance then to land Micah Parsons, your guy, and you get Golladay, then you get Parsons, and you get Najee Harris, get your tackle in round 2, and then you're sitting in really good shape there as well. So there are a lot of different moving parts with it. And I think, you're so right with the Jets. And even, do you guys need to take a receiver? Yes, if Golladay is not there, but that's going to be huge. And I think the reason why Golladay is still out there is teams are still evaluating this receiver class because there are so many talented receivers. You can go every single round of the draft. this year and find a guy who could potentially make an impact. I recorded a podcast last night on the receiver group, and I've got about 35, 36 receivers that are going to come off the board. You could still land a receiver on day 2, either in the second or third round, a guy that could still make a difference for you guys. So at the end of the day, you get Golladay, Fuller, Parker, Williams. You could use a day 2 pick on a receiver and still get a guy that, if Fuller goes down to injury, if Parker goes down to injury, a guy that could still make an impact for you guys. So it's kind of nice to be a Miami Dolphin fan these days. And it's kind of weird to say that now, looking back on where you guys have been. But I think you're right. I think it's going to be kind of nice. You just hope that they don't make any of those bonehead draft day decisions. Obviously the Tua versus Herbert right now, it's not shaping up the way that anybody was hoping for, but jury's still out. We'll see what happens. But I think in this case, you guys, it's kind of hard to screw up where you guys are right now. So I think you're in pretty good shape.
Yeah. And like I said, if they sign Golladay and Jets do that, their pick is going to be valuable. You got Carolina that's looking for a quarterback. That's where Atlanta's going to freak out. And then imagine that, how many draft picks we get for that third pick. And then, like you said, man, if we get Parsons, man, that's my guy. Just the next Ray Lewis.
It could happen.
Zach Thomas, and man, I used to love those Zach Thomas days, man. And just to have him on that defense gonna look good. I know it's funny you say it to be a Dolphin fan, and before, when you used to see me too, everybody like, Dolphin fan, what the heck, dude? Last year when I wore my Dolphin gear, man, I had more high fives, like, go Dolphin, that's right, go, the Dolphins looking good. So it's looking good for us, man. And we've been struggling, we've been punished enough.
Looking at that 18, and I'll leave it at this. You're talking about Zach Thomas. I just throwing that Gregory Rousseau out again. You guys, you need another Jason Taylor too. Another one of those guys coming off the edge. And that's the only thing you mentioned Zach Thomas, so it kind of stuck in my head. I look at Gregory Rousseau, and he could potentially be another Jason Taylor type coming off the edge for you guys too. So thinking about that, that's also a possibility depending on what happens with Najee Harris, the running back position there at 18. Just figured I'd throw that out there because I think that could potentially, he seems like a guy that could end up fitting that role. The only thing is you're going based more on projection and potential than you are, proven production. Yes, he had the 1 year with 15 sacks, but that's still just the 1 year. We don't know. 1 year wonders. It makes you really nervous when you go after some of those guys. And Brian Flores, to his credit, he seems like the type of guy who's going for proven guys. I say that, and they drafted Tua, but proven guys. And so it'll be interesting to see how things go. But anything else? Any thoughts on the draft or NFL wise, Dolphins, or anything else before we wrap things up?
No, man. I'm ready for the season, dude. Any other team that I was kind of disappointed on. Honestly, I was kind of disappointed that they drafted Goff, your Rams, for Stafford, and they literally gave up the farm for Stafford. I'm not a Rams fan, but it's an LA team still, and I still would root for them. They just gave up too many picks, man. They just gave up way too much for Stafford. And he has,
they don't believe in first round picks anymore.
I guess not. It's four. Was it like the next 4 years? They don't have a first round pick, and you got Stafford, he's got some beating. He still has some stuff in him, but he took some beating the last couple of years. If he gets hurt, who's there? Bortles, whatever his name is.
Yeah, Blake Bortles, John Wolford.
Yeah. Oh my God. So. But other than that, that's it, man. That's the only thing big news coming out.
All right, Geoff. Well, I appreciate your time. Appreciate you coming onto the podcast. Got your perspective there with the Miami Dolphins, and we'll probably check in here after the draft and see what happens. See which one of our scenarios actually came to fruition.
Yeah, sounds good, man.
All right, take care, man. You have a good one.
You.
My thanks to Geoff Paez for sitting down and discussing all things Miami Dolphins. And what's interesting is literally minutes after we recorded this podcast, the New York Giants announced that they would be signing Kenny Golladay. So a lot of that discussion about where Kenny Golladay would go and how that would play into the Miami Dolphins draft, really kind of, we can set that aside now. We know that chances are they're going to go receiver, that it's going to be Jamar Chase. And then really the big question is what is Miami going to do at number 18? Is it going to be a running back, Najee Harris? Is it going to be an offensive tackle like Tevin Jenkins? Or is it going to be a pass rusher like Gregory Rousseau? I think there are a lot of things that can come into play. We talked about the chances of Miami potentially getting Micah Parsons. If they want that to happen, they're going to have to trade that 18 pick and move up in the draft to get Micah Parsons. If you could somehow get Jamar Chase and Micah Parsons, you're really doing well for yourself. But consolation prize at the same time is you get Jamar Chase there at number 3, at number 18. Then you're looking at either Najee Harris or in my mock draft, Gregory Rousseau. You move on to the second round, you can get an offensive lineman like Jalen Mayfield out of Michigan, and then get Travis Etienne there to round things out. I think you've got 4 players that can be impact players there for the Dolphins, and really things are looking up for Miami in the AFC East. Patriots are trying to rebuild. The Bills are really the team that's out there right now. Jets still trying to find themselves. I think Miami has a great shot at the playoffs in 2021. So we're going to go ahead and wrap things up here, call it a podcast. Episode 27 will be recorded in the next few days, and we'll take a look at the offensive line. There are as many as 5, 6 offensive tackles that could come off the board in round number 1. We're looking at least 1, maybe 2 guards that can come off the board in round 1, as well as a center, Creed Humphrey. Could he go to the Steelers? Could he go to the Packers? I think there's a lot to talk about there. You're going to find guys that are going to drop into day 2 and day 3 that will be impact players up front, and NFL franchises that are looking to upgrade their offensive line. This is going to be a great draft to be able to do that, and we'll bring that all to you here in episode 27 coming up here in the next few days. So, for readyforthedraft.com, this has been the Ready for the Draft podcast. I've been your host, Gregg Schutze. Take care, everyone. Have a great week, and until next time, I am out of here.